I want you to imagine two schools. You walk through the doors of School A into grey corridors with flickering fluorescent lights. When you get to your classroom, it is small and cramped. You can hear the hum of traffic through thin glass. Now I want you to imagine the opposite. You walk into School B, and you enter a sun-drenched atrium. When you get to your classroom, it is large with big windows. You can hear the sound of the trees rustling from an open courtyard. Notice how different you would feel in each of these schools. Completely different environments, same students, same lesson, same teacher, and as science proves, two completely different outcomes. My name is Hediyeh Khaleeli, and today I want to talk to you about why the most important tool for transforming education is not a new curriculum, it's not new technology, it is architecture. It is the physical world which we surround ourselves with. By applying principles from psychology, neuroscience, and design, we can build schools that do not just teach, but they inspire, heal, and prepare the new generation for a future we cannot yet fully imagine. Before we talk about walls and windows, we need to talk about the brain. A lot of people I know say that they study better under pressure, and I think to some extent we all do. Robert M. Sapolsky agrees, stating that a moderate amount of stress can improve attention and focus. However, he also states that too much can inhibit it. Children cannot learn if they are constantly anxious. They cannot focus if they are under chronic stress. A shocking statistic from the University College of London found that for every 1 point increase in stress levels, 24-year-olds were 16% more likely to say that they had ever attempted suicide than those who experienced less stress at the age of 15. This graph from the House of Commons Library shows that student mental health issues are 5 times higher than they were a decade ago. We are in the middle of a mental health crisis, and our buildings sit right at the center of it. So the question becomes, how can we support those struggling while helping current students, as well as students of the future, flourish? And the first step is by building better buildings. And we can do that by following these 5 principles: light, space, nature, color, and sound. Children spend 32.5 hours a week at school. That is 130 hours a year and 130 hours a month, and 1,560 hours a year. It's an undeniably central part of children's lives. Not only that, but we all spend, on average, 90% of our lives indoors, so the buildings around us must have a significant impact. Schools that invest in psychological design are not just investing in better education. They're investing in the resilience of an entire generation. So the first tool in our kit is better lighting. Natural light controls the human circadian clock, which controls sleep, hormones, metabolism, alertness. It is quite literally what tells us when to think. A landmark study by Lisa Hashong found that classrooms with the most natural light had students that progressed 20% faster in mathematics and 26% faster in reading. A similar study on the workplace found that good lighting increased productivity by 20% and reduced absences by 15%. Now apply that to a school, and you can see why this is significant. The schools of the future should revolve around natural lighting. Skylights, atriums, large windows. Electrochromic glazing is a glass that auto-tints in response to sunlight. No blinds needed, and it reduces glare, thus reducing distraction. It's predicted to be a standard in schools by 2040 across Europe and North America. Of course, artificial light still has its place, specifically in the darker months, but it will be calibrated carefully. For example, in the mornings, it will be warmer to gently ease children into school. In the afternoons, a harsher white-blue light will maintain alertness and focus. We already have the technology for all of these things, we just need the will. Now let's talk about space itself, because the shape and size of a classroom has a significant impact on those inside it. Studies found that participants exhibited 25% higher stress levels in small, crowded rooms. Meanwhile, when participants were in large, open, airy rooms, they elicited much more positive psychological responses. And surprisingly, Ceiling height, which most of us never consciously think about, turns out to matter enormously. Ceilings of above 8 feet encourage creative thinking and social engagement. Meanwhile, ceilings below 8 feet encourage focus and quiet thinking. This gives us a powerful design principle. Low ceilings for exam halls and study rooms, soaring ceilings for canteens, libraries, and creative spaces. And then we have the question of maintaining order. During the 18th century, the philosopher Jeremy Bentham designed a prison called the panopticon. This was a circular structure where theoretically one guard at the center could watch all prisoners at once. The genius was that the guards could never tell if they were being watched or not, the prisoners, sorry. Therefore, they always acted as if they were being. Now applied to a school, not for surveillance, rather visibility, you could build open courtyards surrounded by classrooms with windows, providing a natural gathering space for students. Meanwhile, there are very few hidden spaces, stopping antisocial behavior from flourishing, and therefore allowing students to naturally self-regulate. Next, I'm going to be talking about bringing nature inside, because humans did not evolve in classrooms. We evolved in forests, in grasslands, and beside rivers, and our nervous system still remembers. This is the science behind what designers call biophilic design, the practice of bringing nature into the built environment to aid human well-being. A study by Roger Ulrich found that post-surgery patients with windows facing trees healed faster than those facing brick walls. Stress recovery was considerably faster in natural environments than in urban ones. By 2045, the World Green Building Council predicts that biophilic design will be a mandated feature in new public buildings. They can implicate this by adding indoor plants, green walls, and more outdoor trees, driven not only by aesthetics, but by measurable health outcomes. The economic case alone is compelling: reduced absences, lower healthcare costs, better educational results. Next, we're going to move on to the feel of the school. When you close your eyes and picture the school you attended as a primary child, what color do you see? For most of us, it is a beige or a gray, or I remember an institutional green, which has no name, just a quiet feeling of despair. Color psychology is a well-established field, and its implications for school design are significant. For example, warm colors like reds, oranges, and yellows are energizing and stimulating. They attract attention. However, too much of them can induce anxiety. Specifically in the case of red, it can actually slow down cognitive functions by inhibiting the magnocellular pathway, the very pathway responsible for reading and motion perception. So while a dash of red in a canteen could create a lively atmosphere, a predominantly red classroom can actually be distracting and make it harder for students to read. Meanwhile, cool colors are associated with tranquility, introspection, and calmness, and have positive connotations virtually in every culture across the world. Specifically, blue and yellow light may actually induce dopamine production in the brain, which is a neurochemical critical to motivation and learning. Next, we're going to talk about the material of an environment. A fascinating VR study was used where participants were put in simulated spaces, as you can see here: red brick, wood environment, concrete environment, and a white paint environment. As they were in each of these, their bioelectrical responses were measured, and the findings were that in red brick and wood environments, they felt a mood increase, and they also felt more creative. Meanwhile, in concrete environments and white paint environments, focus increased. Now, the optimum learning space would combine them: white walls for focus, warm timber, and red brick details to make the space feel human, inviting, and alive. Next, we're moving on to sound. Pickett and Bradley state that classroom noises are far too high for optimal learning. Young children especially need significantly quieter environments than adults to process verbal information at the same level of comprehension. In fact, too much noise can impair executive functions. These control working memory, attention, and filtering of relevant information. It's essentially the cognitive scaffolding of all academic learning. They predict scores in reading, mathematics, and sciences. A study found that children exposed to road traffic noise at school showed slower working memory development and greater inattentiveness over the course of a single year. And the solution already exists: mineral wool, acoustic insulation, sound-absorbing ceiling panels, triple glazed windows. The World Health Organization predicts that urban noise will increase by 15 to 20% over the next 2 decades. Future schools will have to serve as acoustically sealed sanctuaries, quiet within regardless of the noise outside. I'd like to return to the statistic that we will spend 90% of our entire lives on average indoors. The buildings around us are not neutral. They are not passive containers for human activity. They are active participants in how we think, how we feel, and who we will become. The UK Education Reform Act stated in 1988 that the physical environment in which school occurs has received too little attention. Almost 4 decades later, and this statement remains true. But we are at an inflection point. By 2030, the world must build or renovate over 10 million school buildings. That's not a problem, it's an opportunity, the most significant opportunity in a generation, to redesign education from the ground up. When we invest in the architecture of learning, we're not just spending money on buildings, we're investing in the neurological development of children. We are investing in the mental health of a generation. Ultimately, we would be investing in the future. Thank you.